I hope you had a good weekend. Sorry I didn't put any content out, but it's Monday afternoon. It is the 17th of August, 2020. Modern Monetary Theory, MMT. So what can go wrong? Inflation. They think the only thing they need to worry about is inflation. It's just the printing of money without any side effects, meaning that the government can inject money and send it to, crony capitalism, I'm going to say. There are some proponents of MMT and there are some skeptics of MMT. I am in the latter, MMT. So all this stimulus, it's not really stimulus, all this printing and no one's getting the bill. No one's being held responsible for it. However, the Fed should not be doing this without having the income to offset it, because all they're doing is creating debt. I watched Peter Schiff the other day. He was quite interesting. The genie's out of the bottle and how do you put it back in? And what is actually the definition of inflation, which is an interesting topic because some people think it's just the inflation of the price. It's the expansion of money supply, which then increases the prices. But inflation is not the prices going higher. It's the increase in the supply of money, and the result is higher prices. So it's interesting to note inflation, and all this MMT is going to cause wide-scale inflation. How do you stop it? How do you stop it? Like Peter said, the genie's out of the bottle. And once the genie's out of the bottle, you can't put the genie back in. The Fed dug themselves into a hole. They've been trying to raise interest rates, in times of a good economy, right? So they should be able to raise the interest rates, and I think they were trying to do that over the past few years. So when times of a bad economy, they can lower them. This whole thing hit in March. We weren't in a good economy, and the interest rates were still low, so they couldn't lower them. MMT kicked in through quantitative easing. I'm not a fan of quantitative easing either. And I'll talk about that in another video. But now we are hopelessly in debt and we printed way too much money. And I guess there's a false sense of security because people don't really see the inflation and they don't see the debt. Not yet. The printing press cannot keep going without the side effects. And the side effects are going to be huge. I mean, you put all these trillions of dollars into the economy. I mean, the dollar is getting smaller and smaller and worth less and less. I think since inception, the dollar has lost 98% of its value. 98% of its value. It's only because the US dollar is the world's reserve currency that the dollar is still the dollar. But I don't think it's going to be the world reserve currency. If they keep printing the way they are. Today I was reading an article that China and Russia want out of the dollar. They don't want any part of the dollar. They see what's going on and they know that it's losing its value, and why should their currency or their assets be tied to the dollar? Right? All world trade is done in dollars. You buy cocoa or, gold or silver or mining or oil. Everything's in dollars. Right now, that's the only thing keeping the dollar going. The rest of the world is holding U.S. debt. It's holding U.S. debt through U.S. treasuries, corporate bonds, mortgage-backed securities. They're holding our debt. What happens when they say, okay, we want out? What happens when they lose faith in that piece of paper? And it's happening. The money's going to come back to the Fed, and it is going to drive prices up, up, up. this is going to happen. We are in an economic depression much worse than the Great Depression 100 years ago. When the dollar crashes and inflation occurs, all the printing in the world cannot save us. The dollar will not have much buying power. It's already losing buying power in building supplies and food and other things, but we haven't seen anything yet. It's coming. When inflation really starts coming, the government will start to implement more controls, and they will start trying to do price controls. And when they try to limit the price of goods, what's going to happen then, there's going to be a limit of supply. So, if a loaf of bread should be $4 and the government's putting a $2 cap on it, the supply chain is going to break down. And then what's going to happen is lines are going to form to get that bread. And there's not going to be enough bread for everybody. There might even be shortages in electricity, where you might only get it a few days a week because the purchasing power of your dollar has weakened and the supply chain is going to shrink. And there's going to be lines. Listen, I don't want this to happen, but if you can't see the writing on the wall and see what our government is doing to our dollar, listen, I understand that people need help. I understand that 52% of South Carolina is behind in rent payments. I think it's the worst state in the country. Evictions are happening. They're real. People have no place to go. Food insecurity is real. I understand people don't have enough money to buy food for their families. I get that. But how did we get there? How did we allow people to get there? People's credit is tapped out. They just can't even charge something. If they spend $50, they break it down upon 3 credit cards because they're all tapped out. When there are long lines for goods and electric outages, the riots and the social unrest are going to come like we've never seen it before. You think it's bad now? You see it in New York and in Chicago, in Portland and Seattle. You see it in pockets here and there. But you haven't seen anything yet. And when wages don't increase because the value of the dollar has decreased, even those with jobs aren't even going to be in good shape anymore. So if you're making, $50,000 or even $75,000, the value of that income is going to be much less than it is today. It's going to get really ugly. And it's just going to happen. I think that, like Peter Schiff says, the genie's out of the bottle and you can't put her back. This is a monetary crisis and a sovereign debt crisis. There are 2 bubbles right now, and that is the stock market and the real estate market. And those 2 will not sustain. I believe that there will be a new world currency. It'll be a digital currency backed by gold. If you're holding on to cash right now, I'm not a financial expert, or it's just what I'm doing. I diversify your assets. I would convert some of that cash into gold. I'd be careful with stock market. I know a lot of people have 401ks. I'm one of them. What do I do with it? I haven't done anything yet. But I need to do something soon. And if you have any ideas, let me know. Maybe put it into a stock fund. I don't know. Right now, the stock market is propped up by, 5 big stocks. You got Amazon, Apple, Facebook, Alphabet. Yeah, that's it. Some tech stocks, some really big, strong tech stocks. Well, and then, of course, you got Moderna. And we know why their stock is up 3 times what it was a few months ago. What's going to happen in the real estate market is all these evictions, they cost a lot of money. They cost the landlord like $11,000 per eviction. So a landlord doesn't necessarily want to evict, but they have to because they have mortgages to pay and their credit rating's being hurt. And it's just like the trickle down effect, right? So the tenant has to leave, and then the landlord isn't paying their mortgage, and then the taxes aren't being paid, which hurts the cities and towns, which hurts the state in the long run, which hurts everything. And it's like the trickle down effect. And then when the states don't have money and the cities and towns don't have money, they have to start laying people off and furloughing their staff, and then it becomes a crisis because things are underfunded. And these people that aren't paying, generally they move out of their neighborhood, which is a decent neighborhood, and they end up having to move into a poorer neighborhood. And it stresses the poor neighborhood because now they have this influx of residents, and they're poor. They don't have this money spending that other neighborhoods have on police, on fire, on, DPW, on schools and everything else. And then that stresses them out because of the demand of resources. It's this trickle-down effect. And I don't see the wave coming back. I see it, trickling down to the point of no return. Anyway, that's my thoughts. We'll talk about quantitative easing. Let me know your thoughts. Have a good day. Please subscribe. And if you like this video, hit the like button too. Have a nice day.